Welcome back. 103 million rand personal protective equipment tender awarded by the Gauteng Health Department to Zakheni Strategic Supplies has been declared unlawful and invalid. Today, the special tribunal reviewed and set aside the multi-million rand tender following an application by the Special Investigating Unit. The tribunal has ordered that Zakheni must pay back all profits earned from the unlawful and invalid tender. Let's unpack this now further with SIU spokesperson Kaiser Kganyago. Dr. Kganyago, always a pleasure speaking to you. A very good evening to you. I have to ask really about how is it that this Zakheni strategic supply got awarded an 103 million rand tender? What happened here?
Good evening, Faith. Good evening to your viewers. What happened is during the start of COVID-19, when people thought that it was an emergency and everybody can just do as they pleased, they then submitted a quotation. I think it was on the 19th of April 2020 to provide masks and gloves, and the following day, hardly 24 hours, they were then given a PO to the value of 103,770,000. And that was, there was no process that was followed. They just gave them this tender, and then they supplied whatever needed to be supplied, and they were paid.
You know, what is quite concerning is the fact that the CFO at the time, Ms. Kabelo Lihlonya, received a quotation from the very same Zakheni, and then they actually had this commitment letter that was signed. At this point, you almost have to ask yourself, how deep does the corruption run? And more than how deep does the corruption run, are these guys going to see themselves, number one, recouping the money, but are we going to be able to take this matter further? Because this is stealing.
Well, definitely. We have already made the referrals to the NPA around the criminality, because there's also other cases, because this is not the only one. There are other companies that were involved, and we are dealing with that. And there's also a case before the tribunal where we want to recoup money directly from the former CFO. And all of those things are happening at the same time. But this is clearly an indication that people go against the Constitution, because Section 217 of the Constitution is very clear that all procurement must be fair, equitable. And when they do that, they just go against the tenets of this Constitution, but also against the procurement policies that they have. They have created these policies, and they also go against the PFMA itself. And to go against the PFMA is a criminal offense.
Who owns Zakheni Supplies?
At the moment, I don't have the name of the person who owns it.
But I'm sure if you go into the CIPC documentation there, and you're able to tell exactly who is the CEO, who's the managing director. The thing is that this company is owned by someone. Somebody's the managing director, somebody's the CEO, someone has had 103 million rand deposited into the company account.
No, definitely. I think the investigators also know, because they have been dealing with this matter. It's just that where I am now, I don't know who the owner of this company is, but I can clearly check and then find that person.
What is also concerning is that 103 million rand or so later, you have to ask, are these individuals and are these companies going into hiding? And if they're going into hiding, then what? You know, you're saying that now it's about recouping this money. How confident are you that even with all the other investigations that you've had, that this money will actually be recouped? Because these guys can declare liquidation, they can run off to another country, and they'll never see the light of day again.
No, definitely. They will always try to do that. But with this particular instance, the contract that they entered into, or the letter that was given to them for this contract, was for 103 million. And then when we found out about it at that time in 2020, we were able to save the department, because at the time they were already paid about 83, I think, 83 million. And then we saved the remainder, because we said to the department, you can't pay them the remainder of this amount. And then now we are going to look into what is remaining. And then the court has indicated that, okay, because they've supplied the things, we have got to go and check how much they paid for these masks and whatever, and what is remaining is regarded as profit. It is the one that they've got to bring back. But one thing that people need to understand is that once there is a ruling like that, whatever you are going to be owing becomes a debt like any other debt. It's not like you are going to only bring back what you you took out. Now, because it's a debt, whatever you own can be sold in order to recover money for this debt.
Yeah, you know, with all the investigations that you've actually conducted thus far as the SIU, and they're trying to recoup the money that was, and again, I say stolen from the taxpayers through the Department of Health during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown especially, how then are you able to, track which official is linked to whom? I mean, with all these investigations that you've conducted, how many of these tenders are linked to officials, brothers, sisters, cousins, wives, children?
No, there are many. Most of them is relatives. Most of them is friends. Most of them is people that are connected. They are using different companies. Sometimes they even go to an extent of taking shelf companies that have not been used to then get this money. In some of the instances, there are companies that we found where the companies were about to be deregistered, and all of a sudden they were resurrected. There were instances where companies were formed this month, and the following month they get a tender like this. And then these are the kind of things that were happening because they thought it is laissez-faire, nobody will come checking, and now we are here, we are checking, and now they look at us and think that we are personal, and we are not. Like I always say, we never investigate people, we investigate processes, and we find people there.
SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago, thank you very much for your time this evening. Well, to this one,